Hi there, I'm Alexandra and thank you for dropping by. If you're watching this video, you might be going through an exam preparation stage or you're simply keen to expand the writing possibilities out there. Anyway, welcome to my channel and let's explore today's topic together. In this video, I intend to continue talking about the CP writing. I have already made a video about an essay and a video about a review, so if you're interested, make sure you watch them too. Today I'm eager to focus on one more type of writing, which is a report, and this one is one of the tasks included in the second part of writing on the CP exam. So if this is something you are looking for, stay with me and let's do a little digging there. Today I'll talk about the stylistic and structural features of the CP report, provide and analyze a sample report, and give you some other tips when drawing up a report. Okay, but first it's essential to understand what a report is. In brief, a report is a written description of an event or situation which is produced for a specified audience. For example, your boss, your colleagues, your fellow mates, or some other supervisors. In other words, a report is a formal piece of writing which is compiled in a neutral tone and in formal language, and it also has its own structure. And now, without further ado, let's look at the sample CP report and see how it all works in operation, so to speak. Okay, and now you see the presentation that I've prepared for you that will help us understand what a report is and how it is compiled. And I suggest that we start with the structure. First is introduction. The introduction contains the main topic and also outlines the subtopics that you're going to develop in your report. Second are paragraphs where you talk about each particular point, or these are sections, and each section has a subheading. And about subheadings, we'll talk a little later. And finally, conclusion, where you give a brief summary and some other recommendations if you have to. So now let's look at a task, at a real CP task, and figure out what our report is going to be about. Now you should pause the video, read this particular task, and try to identify the main topic and the subtopics that you have to develop. Okay, now let's check. So, as you understand, you're a member of an international film club and you have to write the club's annual report. Your audience are your club members and you have to inform these people about three things. First, you have to talk about the main events that took place over the last 12 months. Then you will talk about the present plans for activities in the coming year, and you will also talk about the financial situation, about money received, money spent, and whatnot. So you have to invent all of this information and they will help you do that. So now let's look at each section in particular. First is introduction. Again, pause this video, read the introduction, and see whether the person has mentioned all the points that he or she is going to develop in their report. Okay, now let's check. So, you see that there are only 2 sentences and the introduction is quite short, but you remember that a report is a formal piece of writing, so you have to be straight to the point. You don't have to give a lot of information which is unnecessary, and you should avoid being wordy and verbose because it's not fiction, it's not an essay, so it's formal. So coming back to the introduction, you see that in the first sentence, the person says what he or she is going to talk about in the report, why the person has written this report, and in the second paragraph, the person says which exact points he or she is going to develop. So it all comes from the task and there is nothing to invent here. Okay, now let's move on to the next paragraph. So first subtopic is about financial affairs, and you see that the person indicates that by writing a subheading, financial affairs. So you do this in your writing too. So you indicate, so you give name to the paragraphs so that your reader could understand what you're going to talk about. Don't forget to pause the video to read the paragraphs and then come back to me and follow my explanation. So you see that here in the financial affairs paragraph, the person talks about expenses, talks about the people that have joined the club, gives some information about the grants and whatnot. So the person has made it all up, obviously, but it all counts and it all is up to the point, and this information is relevant. Next subtopic. Okay, the next subtopic is about main events. And please look here, the person uses bullets here. And it's quite acceptable when you do this, it's quite acceptable to use bullets when you write a report, because again, your task is to be structured. Your task is to make a report as comprehensible as possible. And when you see bullets, you see the main points and it's easy to understand what you're reading. And you see that in our case, these are the events that took place, the types of events, the months. And after that, the person gives some brief explanation and some other details that are connected with these particular events. And the last subtopic is perspectives. And here are 3 short paragraphs where the person talks about the prospects for the upcoming year. It talks about developments, it talks about the program, about people's requests, gives some recommendations. And I've already told you that this is the last part, and there is no there is no conclusion. The person doesn't give any designated conclusion, writing like conclusion subheading. But we understand that it's quite logical here because perspectives are somehow connected with recommendations, and the person has just put it all in the last part of the report, and it looks structured, it looks logical, and it gives us this flow. So quite okay. But for example, if you have some other reports, different topics, obviously, you can have conclusion. Yes, you can have some, I've mentioned in the structure before, you can give some brief information and give some recommendations. So it's up to you, but here it's quite okay, and nothing extra is needed. Well, that's it about the sample, but that's not all. And look at the next slide. When I teach reports, when I talk about reports with my students, I always show them this picture. It's a signpost, a pole with different names of places where you can go. And I always ask a question, like how this particular picture is connected with reports. I think you've already guessed, because there are 2 main things. How? First is subheadings. I told you before that when you develop points in each section, you start writing each passage with a subheading. You give it a name so that I could find myself there when I read a report, if I'm the one of your target audience. So it's essential, it's key, and it's a feature of a report. And one more thing is useful language. Of course, what can we do without useful phrases, signposting phrases? So it's essential that you use them, of course, but it's also essential to remember certain phrases, certain structures that you can use. And now let's look at them. So I've decided to give you some signposting devices that I normally give to my students when they just take the first steps trying to write reports. So you can pause the video and read them. You can also take a screenshot and you can give them a try. I mean, like use them when drawing up your own report. So that's it. I think I've mentioned all the major points, and I suggest that we we need to talk about one more thing. So let's look at it. I've mentioned time and again that a report is a formal piece of writing, and it means that something is acceptable, something is not. I mean, in terms of vocabulary and language. And now I propose the following. Look at this bullet points where I enumerate certain linguistic devices or like a language that you can use. And in your report, some of them are acceptable, some of them are not. So the task is to figure out which ones are okay and which ones are a no-no. So pause the video and then we'll check it. Okay, let's do it. So now you see it on the slide. So what is okay? So it's inversion, inverted conditionals, participle clauses. You see, in this case, you kill two birds with one stone. So on the one hand, you seem professional, you seem formal. On the other hand, they make your report look beautiful. You use double comparatives. Passive structures, by the way, you should not personalize your report because it's a general information and you give facts, sometimes figures. So passive structures are basically things that need to be used. Cleft sentences, linkers, I would also add here the signposting devices I've talked about. So, and the second column is the no-no column. So no colorful language like stunning, gorgeous, amazing, fabulous. It's not an essay. No idioms, no phrasal verbs, no contractions, and no opinions like I think, I guess. Try to avoid this because, again, no personalization. It's just formal piece of writing, information, straight to the point, and accurate in what you're talking about. I mean, accurate with figures somehow, if it's real life, and whatnot. So that's it. That's all for now. I hope that now you know the ropes and are ready to plunge into your own report. If you have any questions, please let me know and comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, and see you in my next video. Bye bye.